Okay, great. Good afternoon to everyone. It's great to see everyone. I am very excited for our presentation and collaborative work data dive that we're going to have today. So my name is Michael Johnston, and I am from Pensacola, Florida. I've been in Pensacola, Florida for 12 years now, and before that, I am from the South Florida area. So I work at Pensacola State College, and I get to oversee our research division and then our information systems division. And I love working with data. I love watching the way that data can tell a story. So today, one of the things that I've recognized and realized over my career is that Excel and the ability to work with large data is always in high demand. Everyone now has more access to data than they ever had in history, and that data needs to be actionable, and we have to use data to not just prove, but also improve. So today we are going to go through some wonderful tips and tricks in an hour in order to make your life using Excel just that much easier. So in this experience today, this will be a collaborative session. So I'm going to work alongside you in order to help you understand these tricks and tips that I use on a daily basis in order to make my life that much easier. Hopefully, you've been able to download the Excel document that's going to be associated with this collaborative work ethic today, this collaborative work presentation today, because I want you to work alongside with me. And in this experience, you'll be able to engage and ask questions and also identify any kind of issues that may be difficult for you to experience. I don't mind engaging and figuring them out with you, because as we all grow independently, we're going to grow together. And it's important for us to tell our story. And many times we realize that we don't always have access to those research associates or those statisticians or data scientists that we need to in order to rapidly make a decision based on the evidence that we have that often provides itself in the form of an Excel document. So today I'm going to be monitoring and working along with you. I'll be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, you feel free to write them in the chat. If you'd like to, you can raise your hand using a reaction, using the Zoom reaction feature. And then also feel free to engage in conversation. I don't get offended by it. I love it. I enjoy group work because that makes us all do better together. So lo and behold, I'm going to go ahead and get started. How do you access the Excel document? So we have a question about accessing the Excel document. The Excel document was posted. It was posted on the website, but if you do not have access to that readily, I posted the Excel document in the link in the chat. So it's a drive that's associated with the chat, just in case you don't have it. And if you want, give me a 2 thumbs up or a smiley face emoticon that you were able to access it and be able to download and open that along with me. So when you open it, I'm going to go ahead and give us all a couple seconds. The document should open up here on page 1 of our trick and tips. Absolutely, way to go. Yes, so I'm going to be conscientious and not speak names, but do recognize I normally engage and say your names, but I'm seeing some awesome 2 thumbs up. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Great, great, great to hear, team. Fantastic. So we'll wait about 30 more seconds for everyone to open that document. I'm seeing a lot of good conversation, a lot of good outcomes. Really excited about all this excitement about using Excel. I'm telling you, when I was in school, if I could get my students to be as excited about Excel as I see this group, I would be happy as a thank you so much for posting. Florida Update can also be accessed there as well. Thank you for posting that link. Okay, we'll wait about 15 more seconds for everyone to repost. Hopefully the team member that just asked to repost can see that link posted by Florida Update. We'll give everyone okay, great, we're seeing it, fantastic. And the nice part about this is that this is your document. So if you want to go through and watch what I'm doing and just reflect on it, this is being recorded. So you'll be able to watch the recording a couple times and be able to work through these situations. The nice part, this is a part 1 of a part 2 series. So often when we get to work with data and we get to work with statistics, people get very fearful because we often don't understand situations as Excel is advancing all the time. 2012, 2016, what's the difference between Excel 365? We're going to work through this, and we're going to make sure to make this a very easy experience for all of our team members that are here today. So starting with our first trick and tip with Excel, this is one of my favorites. So can you guys that's on here for the team members that are on here, is everyone able to see my blue cursor? I made it a little bit larger for us to see. I am moving it up and down on the screen. If I can get a thumbs up, or okay, awesome. I'm seeing people come in and say yes. Fantastic. I'm making this a little bit larger, so therefore we can see where I am on the screen. The first trick and tip that I love is that often when you're working in an Excel, you might get many tabs associated with your Excel document. You have tab after tab after tab, and then you just have to move them back and forth. And gosh, that just could be, you could be clicking for hours. You could be clicking for hours. You can move back and forth down here in the bottom left. So notice I have my plus sign here. You can move back and forth going left to right. But again, you could be clicking for hours depending on how many Excel tabs you have. But one of the best tricks that I learned was that if you right click in between these arrows, you're able to see a list of all the tabs that you have associated with, yes, absolutely. You're able to see a list of all the tabs that you have associated with your Excel document. And the nice part is that you can scroll down and rapidly click on them, and you can move between your Excel pages. And by doing so, this is one of the best, easiest experiences that I've found to maneuver between pages so we can identify what we have and not have to click back and forth. So make sure that you try this. Right click. All you do is right click down here at the bottom right, and you're able to see a list of all of the pages associated with your Excel. A super fantastic way to be quick and expeditious with maneuvering between pages. Trick number one, done in less than a minute. Let's move on to trick number two. So here in this Excel document, I've tried to identify in the text box that we will use both in this series and then also the next one, what we're doing. So here I want to make sure that we understand how to auto adjust width and height of cells. So as you can see here, that this Excel presented with widths that were not adequate to what I want to see. I want to be able to read everything. And notice I have this data here and it shows up with hashtags. Hashtags are pound signs. And the reason why it has this is because this is not allowed to be seen because it was just too small. So often I've seen people come through and they right click and they come down here and say, let me adjust the width. And they try to type in the amount of pixels that are associated with it, but that just takes so long. So I will show you all a fantastic trick. I'm going to do this several times. So I like to show and then I'll undo and then show again so that way you can practice the experience. Notice up here in the corner, between the A and the 1, I have an arrow. It's an arrow that's pointing down to the right. This is an arrow, it's a caret, whatever you want to call. I click on this like that, and it highlights my entire document. Very simple. I come up here and I left click on this document, and this highlights everything that you can see in this Excel page. Now, notice when I hover between my A and my B, does everyone see how my icon changes? I'm highlighting between A and B. My icon is changing. The same change will occur between B and C, between C and D, D and F, F and G. The goal is to find that sweet spot between A and B, and notice how it's split with two arrows pointing, one to the left and one to the right. All I do now is I come here, double click, and my cells auto adjust to fit the width of the maximum length of the cell that exists in each column. I'm going to do awesome. I would normally say your names, but I've been asked not to say names, but no, I see your comments. I'm glad that you love it. I love when little things like this make life that much easier for people. So I'm going to undo. I'm going to go back here between my A and my 1. I'm highlighting, woohoo, yeah. I'm going to highlight all my cells. I'm going to highlight and then find that sweet spot between A and B, and then I double click. And bang, I have the exact dimensional width between all of those cells in my vertical columns. But notice down here, does everyone see what's happened between 18 and 19? And then all of a sudden I'm missing the cells between 19 and 22. And I say, where did they go? And I hate when that happens because often people will hide cells or minimize. The nice thing is that this trick works in my rows as well. So I highlight my entire document. I come down here between 1 and 2. Notice my change occurs at that sweet spot between 1 and 2. I double click, and now notice what happened. My cells, my rows expanded in order to meet and see all of the data that's in each row. So I'll do it one more time. I'm undoing. Notice that 18, 19, and 22, they all collapsed again because that's the way it was originally given to me. I'm going to highlight all my cells between A and 1 with a left click. I come down here between 1 and 2. I see how my cursor changes form, and I double click rapidly between 1 and 2, and notice I have the auto adjustment. So I took a data set that was a little bit awkward and I didn't know how to adjust those widths and those heights, and I made it rapidly fit so that way I can see my data. How are we all doing so far? Maybe a thumbs up, thumbs down. Am I going too fast, going too slow? Yes, you just double, all I do is just double click once. Absolutely. So I'm just going to use first letters first letters of the name to address and recognize. Awesome. Okay, so I'm seeing some thumbs up. Fantastic. It's just one double click, and that will allow it to auto adjust. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for catching that mute. Awesome, fantastic team. And again, this is being copied because this is being recorded, so that way we can look at this again. So now we are on to trick number 3. We're going to move a little bit faster. I'm going to scroll in to see this, and notice we have a lot of data here. In this page, trick number 3, look how much data I have here. I say, wow, there's a lot. I'm going to keep scrolling. And often in our experiences, we're going to be working with a lot of data. We're going to have a lot of data, a lot of rows of data. And I don't want to have to copy and paste data that's very long, because how many times have we ever grabbed and pulled this down and then we just hold and hold and hold? All I'm doing is left clicking and dragging, left clicking and dragging. S, I see that you have a question. I'm going to get that and we will help. That way we can figure out your question and solution. So in this circumstance, I want to be able to copy and paste my entire column, and it may be really long or wide. So the great trick here is that if I come up here and I left click in the cell, so I left click in the cell, and now I'm going to hold Control plus Shift at the same time, Control plus Shift, and I'm hit my right arrow. I'm hitting my right arrow on my keyboard. Notice it highlights the entire row and stops where it sees race. So I'm left clicking here, holding Control plus Shift, and I hit my right arrow and I highlight everything in column C, D, and E. I'm going to hold Control plus Shift again and hit my down arrow, and look what it did. It automatically recognized how to highlight all the cells that have data. In fact, one of the best things that we can do working with big data is that if you hold the Control and hit down, right, up, I'm holding Control the entire time I'm doing this, it will automatically go to the endpoints of your data and will not go past it. So instead of you having to highlight with a left click and drag all the way down and all the way down 11,000 rows, you can go anywhere in your data, hold the Control, the arrow key goes up, and it automatically brings you to the top. If I want to highlight the entire column, I'm going to hold Control plus Shift, hit the down key, and now I have all of my data vertically. So we have a question from our team members that says, what happens if one of the rows needs more space than the others? Will it adjust that one row? Absolutely. So in the circumstance in our last experience where one row needs a little bit more space than the others, so let's talk about this. Maybe the font is a little bit larger, so I'm going to enhance that font. Let's see what happens in this circumstance. So I go between my A and my 1. I double click between my 1 and my 2, and notice it goes and identifies the perfect height such that it auto adjusts only that row. And no worries, Em. If you didn't get that one, we're going to work through it. We're going to keep working through this. The key is, you're welcome, S. You're welcome, S. Is that we're going to work through this together. If you don't get every trick and tip, I have no problem if people ask for extra help afterwards, because that's why we're all here. We're all here to get better together. So, so again, there's a lot of tricks. This is recorded, so we can come back and check out it. This is one of my favorites. Who here, give me a thumbs up if you ever used the Excel paintbrush or the word paintbrush before. Has anyone here used the paintbrush? I love the paintbrush. If you haven't, it's okay, because I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, I'm seeing some good comments come in. Okay, so some people have used the paintbrush. Let's see, how many times does this happen where you say, I really like the way this cell looks, the C1, this is cell C1. I want it to look the exact same way. And you start clicking around and you start playing with the font. I'm going to show you an absolute fantastic trick. So M, we have a question. Can we get this file? If I could ask Ipday perfect. Thank you so much, Ipday, for posting the link so M can get a copy of this file and we can work through this. I appreciate you tackling that. So now the goal here is to make sure that C1 looks like D1. I'm sorry, D1 looks like C1. D1 looks like C1. Does everyone see up here where you see the format painter? I love the format painter. The format painter says, not only do I want to just copy the format, but I want to paste it on another cell. So I'm going to highlight my C1. I click Format Painter, and I left click on D1, and look what happens. The exact same configuration, not the content, pastes over to D1. So the configuration of C1 pastes over to D1. So I'm going to do that one more time. I highlight my C1. I want the configuration to go into D1. So I come over here and I click on my Format Painter. I'm left clicking on my Format Painter, and it says copy the configuration, the color, the font, the size into my D1. And notice I'm able to rapidly do that. I don't have to figure out exactly what it is. Notice here that I have all of these, the data came in really funky. Look at that. I got Pensacola, I got a phone number, I got small Milton, I got it looks like this one's bolded. This one has a different font size. I say, oh, this is going to be rough, but don't worry, the painter can fix all of this at one swoop. I come over here, left click on the one that I want, and I like this font, I like this size. I left click on the paint, the Format Painter, and now I'm going to highlight. I'm going to left click and drag. I'm going to highlight all of these cells at the same time. Notice when I do so and let go, all of them are the same configuration. So I went to all of the same configuration. So that paint option is great because you can either paste it into one cell, and I'll do it one more time. I'm going to highlight the cell that I like. I'm going to click Format Painter. I'm going to group them like this, and everything in the cells that I've highlighted are going to come down, and they are going to show up the exact same way as the cell that I like. And notice that could really help you out if you have to do a lot of cells. You can drag and do that trick. So we have a question from our team member in the audience. Is how do you create a yearly calendar? I would love to go in to show you the yearly calendars that I've created in Excel, but unfortunately we don't have enough time. This is more of 30 tricks and tips that are already pre-designed, but I have no problem if you reach out and we talk about how to create a calendar. I love doing these types of situations for our colleagues across the state of Florida. So I do know that if we had time to do that, I would show you some really great calendar techniques that we could use. But right now we're just going to stick on our tricks and tips. So know here that this is, let's say we want to copy an Excel tab over, right? So I want to take this exact cell tab, this exact tab, and I want to copy it. I want to duplicate this tab. So I want to take trick 5, copy a tab, copy at tab. That should be copy a tab, and I want to duplicate that. All you do is hold the control. So right now on my keyboard, I'm holding the control button. I left click on my trick 5 tab, and then I drag over, and look, when I start left clicking while holding control, look what happens to my icon. It shows a little paper with a plus sign on it. And now when I move it over, notice I now created a copy of that tab. How fantastic is that? Or sometimes you just want to try out or maybe do something with your data, but you don't want to, you don't want to hurt your original. You can rapidly copy. I'm holding control, left clicking and dragging. And notice now I have 3 identical copies of trick number 5. I know, how awesome is this? Isn't this fantastic? How are we doing so far? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Are we feeling pretty good? I want to make sure I'm going at the right pace. Some of you probably maybe know this. If some of you do, that's great. If some of you don't, hopefully you're learning something. So thank you. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Okay, good. Not going too fast, and that's the important part. Let's go on and continue. So notice I'm moving over. I could have right-clicked and clicked on text number or trick number 6. This one is fantastic. We like the trick number 6. Awesome. Fantastic, team. I'm glad to hear it's well received. So sometimes we really want to add values that have a pattern, like a 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe some dates or maybe some months. Excel will be able to pick up on trends for you, and I'll show you how easy it is to do. Let's say we want to enumerate, and we're going to do this trick one more time because this one helps a lot of people. And I want every row to have a number. I want a number that's going to populate on every single row. I don't want to go down and type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to take me forever. Thank you, Em. Thank you for that thumbs up. What I'm going to do is that I'm just going to type a couple of the trend, the pattern. I'm going to type the 1, 2, 3. I'm going to highlight 1, 2, and 3. And when I do so, I left click in 1, I drag down to 3. At the bottom right of this cell, the bottom right of my furthest down cell, at that 3, notice when I go to the corner, see how my mouse changes the icons? All of a sudden it goes from a wider plus sign to more of like a compass. It goes to a small, there we go, that's what I was looking for. It goes to a black, it goes to the black plus sign. When I do so, and I highlight down here, I double click, And by double clicking in that corner, all of the rows enumerated. How fantastic is that? So now I can see that Excel found that same pattern, and I didn't have to type out all those numbers. All I did was come down and just come down and double click. So notice I type 1, 2, and 3 to actually do it with even smaller. So I'll come down here and do it just down with 1 and 2. I'm going to left click and drag. I'm going to drop down to the bottom right corner where it changes the icon of my mouse from a wide plus to a little skinny one. And now I double click and it found that pattern. Let's try it for some months. Let's say I want to auto enumerate some months. January, February, if I could type February, March. I don't want to have to type every one of these months out over and over and over again. I'm going to do the awesome. Thank you so much, Em, for those thumbs up. That helps. I'm going to do the exact same trick. Excel is smart. It knows the trend. It's programmed to pick up these trends. I don't want to type out all these months. January, February, March. I'm going to come down here to the bottom right corner. I'm going to see where the Excel pointer changes. I double click. And notice it found May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and then it restarts again. The year restarts. Awesome. Thank you, S. Thank you, S. Great to see. Notice it does the same thing with dates. Let's say we want to start with today, 05/25, 2022. Let's say we want to do 05/26, 2022. And I want it to enumerate these dates. I'm going to come down here, highlight both dates at the same time, left click and drag. Drop down to the bottom right corner. Notice my icon changes. I double click and notice we have an auto enumeration, and make sure to identify the dates. And you don't have to worry about 31 days versus 30. It knows that for you. So notice this is a fantastic way of auto filling values when you need to do it quickly, especially when you're working with a lot of vertical data. Flash fill. I love flash fill. Flash fill is one of my favorite situations. How many times have we received a phone number and that phone number doesn't have dashes or it doesn't have the format that we want? In this circumstance, I want to take this phone number, these 10 digits, and I want to convert every one of them to have hyphens at spot 4, and then at spot 8. So hyphen and then hyphen. Here's the trick that Excel is great at. Ready? All I'm going to do is retype this first number out the format that I want. So the 389-985-0850. I did it once. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to let you all type this number out so you can see the magic of this trick. It's one of my favorite tricks. Now I'm going to do the second one, even though these are all made up numbers. I just did this quick for this presentation. I'm going to do the same thing, 021-285-0850. Hit enter. And I'm going to do it one more time. 95. Look what happened. If some of you had your eyes off the screen, I paused for a second, and Excel figured out the trend of what I was doing. Give me a thumbs up if you saw it. Give me a thumbs up if you want me to redo it. Down if you want me to redo it, or just try it out yourself. So notice here, if I hit enter and everyone see where the light colored numbers are, Excel says, I know what you're doing. Excel says, okay, I see some thumbs up. Okay, so we're getting it. Excel says, I see what you're doing. I know what you're doing. I don't want you to have to write a formula for this. You don't have to go get some major statistician or some SQL programmer. Let's just go ahead and I hit enter in this case, and it identified the pattern and it applied it universally to every single cell. We love using Flash Fill because Flash Fill is a fantastic resource. One thing I do not recommend doing if you want Flash Fill, a lot of times people come over and they type the phone first. If you do this, if you put the phone up here, notice the pattern between this cell and this cell is no longer the same between this cell and this cell. So be very careful. Don't add in those header values if you want to use this Flash Fill option, because Excel will get confused here. It recognizes the pattern here, here, and here, but it won't know the difference between phone and phone. So if you want to put this in, we might call this updated phone. And then remember, I might want to make sure that the config, the color, the cell dimension and size is the same. So I'm going to come over here, left click, format painter, drop it down over here. I'm going to double click, and now I have the exact same thing in the form that I wanted. I didn't have to retype all that. Awesome. Trick number 7. We are on to trick number 8, Flash Fill. Flash Fill works great too. How many times have we been given all caps? How many times have we been given all caps? We want it to be in the proper case. What I'm going to do here is that I need to insert a column between C and D. I come over to column D. And then when I right click on column D, it brings me these options. and I'm going to insert a column between column C and D because I want to correct my case of Pensacola to lowercase Pensacola, or capital P lowercase Pensacola. I'm going to use this flash fill option again, Pensacola, retyping this. Notice I'm just retyping it, not doing anything special, typing a lowercase Pensacola here. And then all of a sudden I have my Gulf Breeze. And as soon as I get there, notice it found that trend for me. But let's say it didn't find that trend. Let's say that for some reason, oh, I'm so glad I changed your mind. Thank you so much. Let's say that it didn't actually find that trend. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to retype this because it does happen every so often that it doesn't find that trend. So what you can do is you can tell Excel on its behalf and say, I want you to come and find this pattern. What I'm going to do here is that I've typed out 3 of the pattern that I want. I'm going to left click on the entire cell, on the entire column. I'm going to left click on it. I'm going to come over here to data. And does everyone here see where it says flash fill? I'm going to left click on this, and flash fill just says, hey, find the pattern in Excel and apply it universally for all of them. I'm going to left click. Notice down here, it's thinking. Notice down here with my mouse, it says, okay, I'm going to try to find the pattern for you. Hopefully I do. Hopefully it's not going to take too much thought. And notice it found the pattern and it applied it universally and you told it to. So if it doesn't find the pattern automatically, it'll find it. Yes, question? No question? Okay, I'm going to mute you and unmute if you have another question. I have no problem if you ask the questions verbally because, again, this is engaging and it makes it way more fun. Now we're going to go on to concatenation. I love concatenation. Concatenation is fantastic because concatenation is just a fancy way of saying take this cell and put it together as one cell. So notice I can apply the flash fill option to this too. Let's say I want to take Tristan and Grant and Thomas and Gillis and I want to combine them. I'm just going to type their names out and see if Excel picks up on my format. So I type Tristan Grant. If I can spell Tristan, you have to spell it correctly. That's the key, one of the keys. So Tristan Grant, Thomas. Oh, look at Excel. Look how smart it is. Excel knew that I was concatenating and combining 2 columns. Bang. How much time does that save us? This option of flash fill is a life-changing experience for those of us that are using Excel, especially if we want to find similar data. I'm going to come here. I'm going to highlight, Control, Shift, and down. Notice it copies, it highlights the entire column. I'm going to awesome see. That's great to hear. I'm glad you're getting it. That's a fantastic way of combining 2. Let's say that you want to use, we're going to dip a little bit into Excel formulae. I'm going to type equals. I know, isn't that awesome, man? It's fantastic. It's totally one of the best things ever. And here, I'm going to put in a formula. And I'm going to type a formula f of x. And notice it brings up this search function. So this is just a fancy way of saying, hey, Excel, help me write a formula. I'm going to type concat, and notice it finds one. This is my favorite, the one that says concatenate. This is only for people that like more of the programming language, that like to actually do some programming. I'm going to click on OK. And now it says, hey, what's the first cell that you want to use to combine? And I'm just going to come over here, left click, and it says, I want to use C2. And notice it tells me what the final is going to look like here. What's the second one I want to combine? I want to combine the last name, and I get D2. But notice, look what happens. I get Tristan Grant, and it's all combined as one, but I want a space in there. So I come back, erase the D2, and I'm actually going to take my finger and hit the space bar, bam, and I'm going to come down to text number 3, hit the last name, and notice now it gives me an idea of what it's going to look like. I click OK. Fantastic. I concatenate it. I combine 2 different cells together with a space in the middle. It gives me what the coding language will be up here. And notice if I highlight on the cell, if I left click and then hit F2, so I clicked on it, then I'm hitting F2, or you actually click in the formula bar itself, it shows colors of what actually I did. If I want to apply this formula, I do the same thing I did with the auto enumeration. I come down here, I see where it changes the cursor. I double click and notice it applied the formula the exact same way. All I'm doing is hitting F2 to see what the formula is using. A fantastic trick to combine multiple. Awesome, friends. I'm glad you're getting it. Let's consider here, unconcatenate. Okay, so I want to split up. My data, and this is a really interesting option. I'll show you a really cool way of doing it, and we're going to do 2 different ways of this. I'm going to show you a really great way of splitting up. So notice here, I have Tristan Grant separated by a space. I have Thomas Gillis separated by a space. I have something called a delimiter. A delimiter is a special word for a character. I'm going to left click. I'm going to left click on this cell, on this column. I'm going to come up, highlight my data field. Highlight my data field. I'm going to come over here and click text to columns. And again, if I'm going a little fast, I want to make sure you know that this is being recorded, so you can come back and watch this. I click text to columns, and I get this that shows up, and I say, oh my gosh, I don't know what any of this stuff means, but don't worry, we're going to explain it in less than 10 seconds. It says, how do you want to split up your cells? I want to use a delimiter. I'm going to click next because a delimiter is just a fancy word for a special character. I'm going to click next, and it says, what's my delimiter? Is it a tab? No. Is it a semicolon? No. Mine is a space. So notice when I left click on space, it finds the space, and it even tells me my new columns are going to be. When I click finish, it tells me there's data that I want to replace. I said absolutely. And notice what it did. It split it up. I unconcatenated, but notice since there were 4 spaces in my top row, it split up all 4. This is something that you have to manually correct. So now in this sheet, I want you all to try splitting this data up, but notice my delimiter is no longer a space. My delimiter is a comma. So try now in the next 15 seconds to use that text to column function and split this up using a comma as a delimiter. And I'm sure maybe we've heard of the file format CSV. It just stands for comma, separated value. Okay. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click on text to columns. It says, do you want to split up using fixed width, means length, like a formula, or a delimited? I want to click on delimited. I'm clicking on next. And I say, I'm not using a space anymore. I want to use a comma. And notice the way it makes it look. It shows what it's going to look like. I click finish, and notice it splits this up, and everything that was in this column got split up by a comma and removes it. Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Very, very cool stuff to help you work every day and transform data without having to leverage those research departments for things that you can do quite rapidly in-house. This is one of my favorite ones. Let's say you just want to take a block of data and move it. Maybe it's a block, maybe it's a column, maybe it's just 3 or 4 cells. All you have to do is left click and highlight those cells that you want. Absolutely, thank you for the smiley basic emoticon. I agree. Sometimes we think we have to wait on these advanced research scientists and data analysts, but in fact, with these kind of tricks and tips, you can do a lot yourself. A lot of my colleagues might say, Mike, you're putting us out of business. And I say, it's all right. We got plenty we can do. The more that we all know, the better we can do together. So now when I come over here and I highlight these cells, notice on the perimeter of the box, my icon changes. Now, when it changes from the plus, the thick plus sign to this arrow sign, I just drag it. I'm left clicking and dragging. All I'm doing is left click and drag, and I place it wherever I want to. And I can move all these cells all at the same time. I'll do it one more time for us, but I'm going to move this entire column. I just left clicked on the C. I want to left click on the C. I come down to the perimeter. I see where my icon changes. I left click and I drag it. And now I've moved my entire column of data in less than 10 seconds. Okay, we're going to keep moving on to trick number 13. Sometimes you may want to remove duplicate rows, but they're impossible to find. Look at this. Okay, I don't want to look at this quickly. Yikes, this is rough. This is a great trick. I'm going to highlight C, D, and E. All I did was left click on C, scroll over D, scroll over E. Under my data field, my data icon. Hopefully we all see where it says remove duplicates. I click on remove duplicates, and it says, what do you want to see if there's a duplicate? Do you want to look at just one row, the first column, one column, and just remove a duplicate if it exists there? Or do you want to look at all of them simultaneously? So here's a great trick, because I say, remove the duplicate if the first, last, and the gender are all the same. When I click OK, Excel says, okay, I found 1,000 duplicate values, and now there's only 42 unique that remain. So that's a quick way of finding and removing duplicates. But say, sometimes in trick number 14, I want you just to find me the duplicate values. Find me every time that I see the name repeated. I love this trick. This trick says, highlight the first column. I'm just going to highlight the first column, C. I come up to my home. And now, does everyone see where I have this conditional formatting? This conditional formatting button sometimes looks a little weird because it's just not friendly. It's colorful, but sometimes not friendly. So here, when I click on conditional formatting and I highlight my cell rules, I move over and I see anytime there's a duplicate value that exists in the column that I have highlighted, I want you for me to highlight it. And notice what it did. It found rapidly all of the repeated values that exist in my column vertically to easily identify anytime that first name has been highlighted. So notice Aaliyah is here, and then Aaliyah is also down here. I don't want to have to look through lots of rows of data to find my highlights. I want to be able just to do it rapidly. And notice if we continue on in our document, we're at trick 15, we're halfway there. We want to filter here by our text color. And you're saying, wait, filter by text color? What do you mean filter by text color? Notice, does everyone see how when I did my last trick, Aaliyah became a red font and a pink background? Excel allows you to filter on common colors. By right-clicking on this cell, dropping down, you'll see a filter option that says, hey, I want you to filter by the cell's color. So if I come over here, filter by cell color, click on that, notice it applied my filters, and now I have a quick list of all of the cells that repeat in column C. Saves me time. I can filter by color. So now we can take situations where we have to find duplicates and find them quite rapidly. If you're looking for students that are excelling, that have lots of row level data, that have a lot of classes, it's easy to rapidly identify them, filter them out. Okay, so sometimes we have quick analyses. Let's say I'm looking at this and I say, oh my gosh, what is this? I don't want to look at this. I don't do averages and sums and graphs. Let's see if we can look at a spreadsheet and find numbers that are either the highest or the lowest. I'll show you all a great trick. I'm going to come up here to my first number. I left click. I drag to the bottom value on the right side. All of my numbers, I highlight them all at the same time. When I let go, look what populates at the bottom right corner. Boop. Hopefully we all saw this little icon populate. I'll do it one more time so we can see it. I start up here at C2. I drag all the way down to E22, my bottom right number. When I let go, this little icon populates. I'm a very visual person. Many people are very visual and they look at colors. When I click on this, I'm going to say, do me a favor and find me the largest value. I'm going to click on this data bar. And now, instead of looking at all those numbers, I can easily see that this bar is completely full. That largest value is that 1619.119, Rep Jones, item pencil. This was the largest value that exists, all because of that quick conditional formatting that exists, because I highlighted my cells. I came down this little box that most of us always overlook. I left click on them, and then I can even change it. Let's say I want to change it to colors. I can add some color. I can add some up and down arrows. You can play with it all you want. You can highlight greater than values where to look at certain values. It'll default to a certain value of it's 10%, the 10 percentile. That's what it defaults to. But again, a very easy way to identify visually which one's your biggest number, which one's your smallest number. And notice we have a couple smallest, but it's easier for us to find. And I look here that I got that 1696. I got 903. Clearly my smallest is $9.03. So I love that quick conditional formatting. It's fantastic for rapid visualization. Quick analysis and math. Let's say we're asked to add columns, rows, find averages and percentiles. Do the same thing. Come down here. I start at the top at C2. I point and drag and go all the way down to the bottom. And notice when I do so and let go, my little box shows up. I want to figure out, okay, what's the column? How do I sum all these columns? What was the sum of the fall total and the spring total, the summer total? Come down here in my box, I click on totals, and notice you get all of these visual options that populate. All these populate. Notice when I click on sum, and I'm not even clicking, I'm just holding it, it summed for me all of these columns. So I didn't have to write a formula, but if you want to know the formula that was used, Excel went ahead and populated that for me. A fantastic experience for us to be able to rapidly sum and find average of data. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I want to find the average. What was the average of all these cells? I come down to total, I click on average, and it goes ahead and it finds the average of these for me. Not only does it do the vertical values, it also does horizontals. I come over here, highlight and drag. I come down, click on my icon, quick analysis. I click on totals, and there's a little arrow that scrolls over to the right. I click it. Notice that the bottoms are on the blues are on the bottoms, the oranges are on the right, and notice all of these, and I'm just going to move this so we can see it. Doing one more time. Quick analysis, totals. I'm going to move over to the oranges, and notice here I have the sum. It summed those values, found the average. Count means just count how many stick cells exist. Not very helpful here. Percent of total. For this one, it takes the percent of total of all of them. So it finds the sum of this and divides by the entire sum of the pane. So this is another fantastic tool for quick analysis if you need to figure out row totals, row sums, column total, column sums, or even averages. Moving on to pivots. Sometimes we look along and we say, which rep sold the most? And how do I figure out, was it Rep Jones? Notice he's here, or she's here, and then here, and then here, and then here. And I say, oh, which one's the biggest number? Which one has the most, most LCP completions? Which one has the most of something? Pivot tables are fantastic. I love them, but sometimes they're a little difficult to use, but I'm going to show you a fantastic trick. Doing the exact same thing, I'm going to come over here, highlight my entire grid. I'm highlighting my entire grid. Notice when I do so, this quick analysis button, it's so small, it's innocuous, but it has so much power in analytics. I'm going to click on this quick analysis button, and notice here where I have my tables, it gives me some pivot tables. And look what it does for me. It actually lines some up and says, hey, I think these are some that you might want. But notice I look at this and I say, I don't want to know the row labels by binder. And what it did is that it took binder and summed all the binders for the fall. It took it and summed it for the springs. I want to know by the salesperson. So I'm going to left click on this pivot table. And notice it brings me an entire new sheet. And I say, oh, I don't know how to use all this stuff. I don't know how to use all this. I'll show you how easy it is. The row, these are rows. These are all rows. This is my row identifier. These are my columns. These are my sum of values. So when I come down here, I want to see all of them at the same time. So I'm left clicking and dragging into my values. Notice it summed the fall totals, the spring totals of binders, and the summer totals of binders. But I don't want to know by item. I don't want to know by binders, desks, pens, and pen sets and pencils. I want to know by the rep. So I'm going to drag this outside of my rows. I'm going to drag the rep inside of my rows. And notice now I have this broken down by my reps by the fall, spring, and summer. And let's say I want to see who sold the most. Remember our conditional formatting that we just learned? Highlight my cells, come down to my cool little box. I'm sorry, my conditional formatting option. I click over on my colors, and I'm going to click on this. And I often like this one because this one is where green is the most and red is the least. I think, red's more alarming. So that's just the way I'm looking at here. And notice now, visually, I can see that Jones had the largest number for the spring term or for the springtime. I can see that I got a lot of red, but Andrews in the summer only had 1996. So think about how things like this can be used for quick analyses. Let's say in this example, this trick number 18 and 17, I'm running a little low. The only thing I provided here was an opportunity to do it by item. It's the exact same thing. I'm going to skip over it because I'm running just a little bit behind. Here in trick 19, how can we do the same exact thing? You just move between pivot tables. So I just gave the option to drag and drop and move them back and forth, just like we saw before. So again, using these action-packed pivot tables are very helpful, very, very important because they're so quick and they allow us to see quite a bit. So keeping that just in mind is something very helpful. A lot of times we look at data and we don't know how to present the data. Do I use a bar chart? Do I use a line chart? Excel has something called ideas. Ideas in Excel are very powerful. Notice under my home option, when I drag over, when I'm not dragging, when I just move over, there's a lightning strike that has the term ideas. And ideas are just saying, hey, figure out how to visualize your data. So Excel went through for me. Notice all I did here, I didn't have anything highlighted. I just have a grid of data. And let's say I'm coming up, I'm behind the line, I got to do a presentation, I got to submit a grant, I need a quick way to analyze what I got. Let's ask Excel for help. So I come over here, I go to my home key, come to ideas. When I left click on ideas, Excel says, okay, I see what your data is. I'm going to highlight it for you. And here's some ways of presenting it. So notice here, I'm going to insert this pivot table, and it's in the form of a bar chart where it went ahead and summed for my fall term, my binders, pencil, pens, pen sets, and desks. And then it even colored in for me to make it so visual which one was the most, because that tends to be what we look at. You can go through and you can name it, you can rename this however you so see fit. And it's a fantastic experience. It puts us as something called suggestion 1. And every suggestion you use, it adds a new tab for you. So, okay, so I see that some people don't have an ideas icon. This is for the new Excel 365 2020 version. So if you do not have it, there's all you have to do is upgrade your Excel to the newer version of 365, and you'll be able to see the ideas key. And if then you can't do it, you can't find it, shoot me a message and I'll help you figure it out. So I'm going to scroll back over. I'm going to use my right click key, and I'm going to go back to my quick, what was it? Where were we? We were on ideas. These I added as enumeration. This was just that trick that we talked about with enumerating earlier where we added a 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to show you as a way just to help do things repetitively. It helps keep the mind similar. Let's say I wanted to enumerate these rows. Another practice. I come over here, type of 1, type of 2, type of 3. I highlight 1, 2, and 3. Come down to the bottom right. It changes icons, double clicks, and just like this, it's practice from what we did on the third practice tab. So another way of just enumerating and adding in those values. It's very quick and very easy to do. Enumeration of dates. Go ahead now. Let's take 15 seconds to see if you can enumerate the date. So put a date here and then increase it by 1 day. Let's see if we can do that in 15 seconds. If you can, it's okay. This is recorded and I'll always help you out as well. 10 seconds. 5. And there we go. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type 01/01/2022, 01/02/2022. And this is all I need. I'm going to highlight my cells, drop them down, come down here to the bottom corner. It changes the icon, double clicks, and notice I have the enumeration of dates. Awesome, C, awesome. Way to go. Fantastic. I know I'm going a little bit fast, but I got so much to say. And the nice thing is that they're willing to record this. Fantastic, B, fantastic. Awesome, T, fantastic. Strong work, team. I hope you all are enjoying this. I love teaching this type of stuff. I love working with this stuff because I love empowering individuals to be able to dive into their data, to be able to do action-packed research right at your own desk without having to list the help of some people that may not have the time to always dedicate to your area. So let us continue. Quick formatting. I love quick formatting. Sometimes we get all these decimals and no one thinks in 10,000ths and 100,000ths. It's just not the way we think. We usually think in tenths or maybe the one digit, the tenths or I'm sorry, not the 1 digit. Yeah, 1 digit or the 100th digit. So I come over here, I highlight like I did before. I'm not going to use my special little quick icon. I love this little quick icon so much. I'm going to right click. And notice when I right click, so all I do is left click and drag. I right click. And does everyone up here see where I have a blue arrow to the left and a blue arrow to the right? It's almost counterintuitive. This just says add decimal places or remove decimal places. I'm sorry, it says, yeah, add decimal places or remove decimal places. If I click this a couple times, it removes it and it rounds up to the nearest decimal. So this is a great way to either add decimals or remove decimals. So if you perform a function, a division function, and you have repeating and you have a decimal that goes on infinitely long, this is a way just to quickly sum them all to either the tenths, to the hundredths, or just to the ones unit. So that makes it easier for visual acuity. Change a bar graph. This one's more corny, but I do enjoy it every once in a while, especially if I'm maybe doing things that that have to be more relevant. Notice here I got some binders, desk, pens, pen set, and pencils. Let's say I want to change this bar from a blue bar to a pencil. I love doing this as a fun little trick. I'm going to right click on my bar, and when I come down here, I click on Format Data Series. Can you do time? Yes, D, you can do time. You can auto-enumerate time, absolutely. So you can do 12:01, 12:02, you can do 12:10, 12:15, 12:30. It will enumerate time throughout the day and also recognizes the difference between a 12-hour clock and a 24-hour clock as well. I'm going to go here and I'm going to format my data series. And notice when I get this, I say, oh, what does all this stuff mean? Don't worry about it. Click on my graduation cap. I call this guy the graduation cap. When I do so, there's a fill button. There's a fill button. And down here, picture or texture field, I'm just going to click on picture. And notice it plays some binders for me. I'm going to click on insert. I'm going to click from online pictures. I'm going to look for a pencil. Just type in pencil. This is open. They use Bing to identify the pencils. And here, let's just say I like which pencil do I like? I like this pencil. I'm going to insert this pencil, and it flips them all over. And you can do it. I highlighted all of them, but you can do all of them, or you can do just one at a time. So again, a nice way to change this. You can change the way it looks, the bar, by being something that's a little bit maybe more relevant to pencil, pens, and pencils, something like that. Okay, so this one I love this one. So how many times in an Excel line have we ever wanted to go to the next row to type? You're like, oh, I want to put 2 rows in here. So a lot of times I see people do this. Notice I typed in here and I space. Has anyone ever needed to write 2 rows in one cell? Maybe thumbs up if you had. Maybe you don't know if you ever did. Okay, seeing some thumbs, fantastic. Yeah, I have too, absolutely, D. I'll show you a great trick. Notice I put the ways to do it up here. Absolutely, absolutely. Come over here, click on the very end of whatever you're writing. Hit the Alt, hold Alt, and hit Enter. And notice it looks like everything went away, but I'll show you the trick. What it did is that actually created, what it actually did was create 2 rows. It created 2 rows in your data. So I'm going to expand this a little bit so you can see it. So notice here, I clicked at the very end of trick. I hit Alt and Enter, and it creates another row within the cell. Okay, no problem, B. Thanks so much for sticking with us. And notice it allows me to put in multiple row lines in one Excel field. I'm sorry, one data field, one data cell. A quick row add. I love this one. This one's Alt IR. Hold Alt IR. Hold Alt, then hit IR. It adds an extra row. This one's a cool experience because when you do that, you can rapidly you can add a row of data, and I like doing that as well. So notice all I do here. Do it one more time. I click on any row, hold Alt IR, and that's all I do. So it's Alt then plus IR. So it's not Alt plus IR. So I'll do it one more time. All I did, I'm hitting Alt, bam, and now I type IR, and that adds an extra row of data without having to do the added extra row. So I love this trick, especially if I have any extra row of data. It's fantastic. And also IR, institutional research. So freeze panes are fantastic. Notice here I have some institutions and I have their states, and this was like a public data set I got about online learning students. Let's say I want to freeze panes. Let's say I want to freeze this column as I scroll to the right and scroll to the left. I love this trick because in the view option, there's a freeze pane field. When I highlight, it says, do you want to freeze the top row, the first column? I'm going to click, yeah, I want to freeze the first column. And notice when I click that and I scroll to the left and the right, notice my first column is frozen, and I can always reflect back and see what it's lining up to vertically. If I want to take that freeze off, I click on my freeze and click unfreeze panes. Let's say I want to freeze my top row. I come over here, click freeze, freeze top row. I scroll down and that freeze is always there. So that way you know exactly what you're looking at from that first row. This last freeze function is called freeze panes. Freeze panes will freeze everything to the left of a cell and above a cell. So if I click here, it will freeze everything in column A and B, and then everything in row 1. So notice I click freeze pane, just freeze pane, and notice it freezes the top row and freezes my first 2 columns. Love the freeze pane trick. It's fantastic, saves a lot of time. We are almost down to our last couple of tricks. Split screen is great. This is just a really cool key. So when you click on split, you create 4 different quadrants of data, and you can move them up and down. And that way you can basically look at 4 screens on your Excel all at the same time. And it's very helpful. If you want to get rid and only go from 4 quadrants just to 2 halves, you can just drag this cell, you can drag this line off of the Excel, and now we only have 2. So it's very helpful. I love the split option, very functional. Transpose. Let's say I wanted to get this data here horizontally, and I want them all to be vertical, right? I'm going to show you that really great trick again. I'm holding Control Shift, scrolling to the right. I hit the right key because I want to highlight all of them. Or if you want to drag all the way over and highlight, that works just as well. I'm going to right click on this data. I'm going to copy this data, just that simple, just like I copy any data cells. But now when I right click here, I don't want to paste. I'm going to use this awesome paste special function. And I'm going to click over on the transpose field. I want to be able to transpose this data. And by transposing, it means to flip. And now it took this data here in a horizontal column and it made it vertical. So therefore, you don't have to type out all those states. Fantastic, Em. I'm glad you're loving this. This makes me so happy. I love it too. I can do tricks and tips for hours. The next one we're going to do some data dives together and show how we can use these tricks and tips collaboratively in order to analyze some data and show a story mathematically. I love the if function. This is the first part of conditional formatting. If you don't get this now, we're going to work on this. It's going to be the first part of our next series and in our 2 of 2 series. Let's say we want to identify every one of our reps that has more than $1,000. This is a very easy thing to do in Excel. I'm going to come over here and I want to put it in this column. I want to put it in this column. Yes, this column. I'm going to click on my f of x, my function key, and I want to find the if. If yours doesn't show up, just type if here, right? Just type if and hit enter, and notice it populates. I'm going to click OK. This looks a little crazy. You think, oh, logical tests, value, true, value, false. Don't worry about it. I'm going to help you with it. My logical test says, I want to see if E6 is greater than $1,000, greater than 1,000. I'm going to type in here. I'm highlighting it. I'm going to click on my E6 field, and notice it type that in for me. Greater than is just the greater than key. All I do is do shift period, and now I'm just going to type 1,000, just like that. Then it says, what do you want? Excel says, what do you want me to produce if it's true? I'm going to say high performer. And then if the value is false, I'm going to say low performer. Again, I'm getting down to those last couple minutes. When I do so, I have my logical test that I type from this. What do you want Excel to produce if it's true? High performer. If it's false, low performer. I click OK, and notice this is greater than 1,000, so this person's a high performer. I want this formula to apply all the way down. I highlight the cell, drag to the bottom left corner. Notice how it changes. Double click, and notice now I have all of my high performers, all of my low performers, all applied in a couple seconds. My last trick is quick keys. I love quick keys. I can't tell you how much I use this. It's almost like the auto dial function or it's just fantastic. I love quick keys. Let's say you're in Excel and you want to put in a date that's very quick. You can do the same thing in Word. If you hit Control and then the semicolon, so Control semicolon, look what I did. I did not type out today's date. Do it again. I hit Control semicolon, holding Control hit semicolon. You can add today's date. If you want to apply a strike through, there's lots of these little quick keys. Let's say I want to strike through Gil and 200.84. Hold Control, hit 5, and notice it applies the strike through key, the strike through font through this. If I hit it again, it takes it away. I love the strike through because if you're like evaluating a Word document, you want to strike through something, you're in Excel, you want to strike through, then that's a fantastic key quick trick that you can use. Inserting date is fantastic because how many times are we typing dates in Excel or in Word? If you hit the Control and the Control and the semicolon, you can put dates in. So that's my 30 of 30. I hope you all enjoyed this tremendously. I had a fantastic time working with you. I think it's just wonderful. I think it's wonderful for all of us to collaborate and work together. And you are so welcome. Must be a 5 on Alpha keyboard, not numeric keypad. Yes, you are correct. C. Oh, great. Oh, yes, this is super fun. And I think Miss Junewall would like to give a small closing statement or a closing statement.
Well, first off, I have to say thank you so much. I mean, I've learned a great deal. I know that a lot of people are going to go back and come back and look at all these tricks, but you don't want to miss next week because there's 30 more of these tricks and tips. Mike will be back with us next week, so please join us then. Before you leave us today, can you take a quick survey? It will appear on your screen and you can give us your feedback. Or you can just write it in the chat for us.
Fantastic. Yes, we will be doing another one. Will this be, I will let the day team respond about when it'll be available for review.
Yeah, within like 48 hours, it will be up on the IPDAY website, so you can see it, the recorded version, and all your little tips will be there too.